la vivienda es tu casa, mi casa no es.
He notado muchísimo. And in the video, you can hear protesters saying, fuera gringo, which means get out. And gringo means someone who is from the United States. They are also chanting, mi casa no es su casa, which means my house is not your house. Gringos are moving to Mexico while holding a remote United States job. And they're enjoying the cheaper cost of living because obviously they're making money in dollars and spending it in pesos. These colonizers are spiking up the rent where locals are not able to afford housing. In the last 5 years, rent has spiked up by 47%.
Hello, my beautiful people. I hope you're doing fantastic, and it's always a pleasure to have you here in my channel. So right now in Mexico, the locals are protesting and saying that they are tired of immigrants who go to Mexico to escape high rent in the US or somewhere else. They get paid in dollars, they don't pay taxes, they don't learn Spanish, and they don't respect their culture. So they're saying that if you're going to live in Mexico, you have to contribute something to the Mexicans' economy, and you have to show respect to their culture. So let's get to see their reactions. Then we come back with a complete analysis about this topic, all right? And if you're new here, kindly consider subscribing so that you never miss any update from my videos. Let's dive into it.
Did y'all know they over in Mexico tearing white people's asses up right now? If you don't believe me, you can go look it up. But the Mexicans that are in Mexico are literally coming after people who are claiming to be nomads. You know, all those boomers who have now retired and are looking for a cheaper place to live with their retirement. They decided to go to Mexico and try to gentrify Mexico. And they said, no, sir, no, ma'am. The Mexican people are going through their cities where they've built all these places of shops and restaurants, and they are breaking everything. They are blaming this boomer generation and these digital nomads for the reasons why the price of living is going up. They say that over the last 5 years, just rent alone has gone up 43% because of them. They said that because of them, they are now having to choose between groceries, rent, and electricity. And they didn't waste no time telling them, get the fuck out. They even said they was coming on their beaches telling them that their mariachi bands can't play their music. The nerve. That's a cultural thing that's been going on there forever. Why would you think you get to go to someone else's country and tell them what to do? There was even one of the protesters who was quoted stating, this is how colonialism works, and we're going to put a stop to it before it ever even happens, honey. And they don't look like they're joking around, busting windows straight out, honey.
Do you know how obnoxious you have to be to piss off the most hospitable people on the face of planet Earth, right? A los ciudadanos del país de México, right? To the point where they're like, afuera, gringa afuera. Like, we're done, right? We're done. Like, it's so crazy, right? Because I made some content about this a couple of months ago. I told y'all, right? And the Mexicans were getting done, right? When folks were going to the restaurant, y pide la carta in inglés, and like, come on, like learn Spanish, bro. It's not that hard to learn basic Spanish. And then driving up the rents, acting like you in the 51st state when you're in a completely different country. They had enough, man. They had enough, and I'm there for it. I hope all of these gringos, all of these fools get about 15,000 quiero llorars and get the hell out of there, man. Because again, they have really, really messed up the situation, or tried to mess up the situation in one of the best countries in the world, which is Mexico. Much love, baby.
Karma is a bitch, ain't it? Y'all hear what's going on in Mexico right now? It don't get no better. So while liberals in America are saying, Viva la Mexico, and waving the Mexican flags, protesting with illegal immigrants to keep them here, you know what's going on in Mexico right now? The Mexicans are protesting, holding up their signs saying, hey, gringo, get the fuck out of here, SA. Get the fuck out of Mexico, puto. The Mexicans are kicking white liberals out of Mexico, while the ones here are protesting to keep Mexicans here. What the fuck? So the reason for this is liberal Americans fuck America up, fuck their beautiful California up and their fucked up blue cities, and then they dip out, sell their shit, move to Mexico, right, to live cheaper. Yet they get all the high paying jobs in Mexico, according to the Mexicans. So they move in, everything goes up because of the high traffic of foreign people, and then they go there with their fucking United States American entitlement for the liberals. They go to Rome and do what liberal Americans do. Because they don't know, when you're in Rome, you do as the fucking Romans do. So they go to Mexico with their entitlement, right? And then they work from home, work on their computer, and then they live this lavish lifestyle. Because when you go there with your United States dollar, you can buy a fucking mansion for pennies on the dollar. So now because of that, everything, all the prices are going up, cost of living is going up. They're over there fucking up Mexico, and the Mexicans have had enough. So they're over here trying to say, Viva la Mexico, Viva la Mexico. And then Mexicans are over there saying, get the fuck out of here, puto. Go back to America, go fight in America. We don't want you here. Hell yeah. The only thing they need to realize is, here, they'll just talk. But in Mexico, the Mexicans will actually make them disappear. So they're gonna fuck around and find out. So let's get ready for them fucking liberals to march back here in droves, because the Mexicans are kicking their asses out of Mexico. And that's just news for ya.
Let's talk about the protests happening in Mexico City. Locals are telling foreigners to pay taxes, learn Spanish, and respect the culture. And now people are saying, but if Americans said that to immigrants, everyone would be upset. But let's talk about why that comparison doesn't hold up. It is not the same thing at all. When immigrants like me come to the United States, we don't come to the United States just to buy off property and live off passive income. We come to work. We do the jobs nobody wants. We pay taxes whether we have papers or not. We build things. We respect the country. We contribute. Now compare that to what's happening in Mexico. The tourists or digital nomads, people that work remotely to escape high rents in the States, they are not there to integrate into the community. They live in Mexico, but they still work for U.S. companies getting paid U.S. dollars. They're not paying Mexican taxes. They're not part of the Mexican labor force. Overall, they're just not helping the Mexican economy. If anything, they are draining it. And the worst part is, they tell us when we come over here to the United States to learn the language. They go over there, they don't learn the language. They treat the place like a fucking trend. And what ends up happening? They buy up all this property, increasing the value of property for people that have been there, living there, making it unaffordable for the locals in the country. And that's why people are protesting. They don't fucking hate foreigners. They hate the fact of what foreigners are doing, gentrifying the whole place. Everything, the rent's gone up, $2,000 and up. Everything being listed on Airbnb now. So don't say it's the same, because when we come over here, we're not fucking welcomed while contributing so much to the country, and we still get blamed for everything. While tourists that go to all these other countries like Mexico and my country of El Salvador, they get all the perks, while the locals pay the price.
You know, the irony that Mexican citizens in Mexico City are protesting American presence in their country. What in the uno reverso? Listen, that's what happens. Don't you think that the timing of it is just ironic? You know, America starts kicking all of the Mexicans out, and then Mexicans are like, no. We want you out of here too, because you're gentrifying our city. And I love that. I love that because, yeah, you want the benefit. Because believe it or not, a lot of Americans actually live in Mexico illegally. I know, it's crazy. Wow. And so, no, they want tougher legislation on it. And yeah, they're pissed. And I love that for them. So, you fuck around and you find out, you know? So yeah, who would have thought?
Mexicans want Americans to self-deport themselves out of Mexico. Yes, you heard me right. The Mexicans are saying, hey, Americans, it's time to go home. Deport yourself out of our country. Protesters took to the streets in Mexico City saying, no more gringos, stop stealing our land, demanding that local leaders regulate tourism and have stricter housing laws, saying that Americans cannot come in and buy up all the property there. Protesters soon became violent as they started smashing storefronts, looting stores, and harassing and screaming at tourists that are simply walking on the streets, telling them to go home. During 2020, a lot of Americans moved to Mexico because they could live cheaply there and they could continue to work in their American-based companies, so they were living large. Rent in the past 5 years has increased by 47%, and the people in Mexico are done with it. They're saying, we have had a mass invasion of Americans. They're taking over our land, they're bringing their culture here, and we're done. So Americans need to deport themselves out of Mexico. Sounds kind of familiar, right? We had a mass invasion here. Now we're trying to send people out of our country. Mexico's doing the same thing, saying, Americans, it's time for you to go home. We want our land back. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
This is a big reality check because for years, Americans have told immigrants in the US to follow the rules, to speak English, to pay taxes, but now some of them are doing the opposite, the exact opposite in Mexico. Mexicans are not being hateful, you know? They just want fairness. If you want to live in our country, you need to help the economy, learn the language, and respect our culture. Because if you won't accept this behavior in your own country, why should you bring it in someone else's country, you know? Respect goes both ways. Donald Trump vowed to stop immigrants from crossing the US-Mexico border. He called them criminals, rapists, and promised a wall to keep them out, but today, the tables have turned. Now it's Americans, especially MAGA supporters, flooding into Mexico, and Mexicans are not happy. Middle-class Americans can't afford to live in their own country. Healthcare is unaffordable. Student loans are crushing people. Cities are becoming war zone. What we are witnessing is bigger than just migration. It's a shift in global power. The West is declining. The empire is rotting from within. Meanwhile, global South, Mexico, Brazil, Africa is all rising, and they're saying, enough is enough. The people Trump tried to block are now standing up against the very Americans who looked down on them. This isn't just irony, it's karma. It's time we ask, who's really winning? Because if Americans are fleeing their own country to survive, maybe the war wasn't about keeping others out. Maybe it was to keep the truth in. Today's generation, Gen Z and millennials, are not the same passive crowd the world once knew. You can't fool them anymore. Their eyes are wide open. They are questioning everything from politics to the systems that have kept people oppressed for centuries. They refuse to live under a modern-day version of the colonial era, where a few powerful nations or elites dictate how the rest of the world should live. They are tired of fake promises, tired of being silenced, and tired of systems built to keep them struggling. Whether in Africa, America, or Europe, young people are rising. They are educating themselves, organizing, speaking out, and reclaiming their power. They are starting to recognize their rights, their history, and most importantly, their worth. And guess what? Once the youth wake up, no force can stop them. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you found value in what we shared, kindly consider subscribing and turn on notifications so you never miss any update from our videos. Your support really means a lot, and it helps us keep bringing you more insightful content. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.